When an INFJ reaches 40, the world does not simply notice them. It feels the tremor of their emergence, like a quiet volcano suddenly awakening, like a storm that has been gathering in silence finally letting loose in a display of raw power and unstoppable presence. The decades of quiet observation, of endless internal processing, of feeling misunderstood or invisible, all converge at this precise moment, and suddenly, life begins not in the way they expected, but in a way that is far more profound, far more intense, and far more entirely theirs. It is as though the universe itself has been writing a letter in invisible ink for 40 years, and only now, through years of heartbreak, joy, disappointment, reflection, and self-discovery, can they read it fully, finally understanding that everything they endured was a preparation, a necessary alchemy, transforming their pain, their empathy, their sensitivity, and their relentless search for meaning into power, clarity, and self-mastery. And this is not a gentle awakening. It is a rebirth, the kind that shakes foundations, dissolves illusions, and for the first time allows an INFJ to fully inhabit their own life with courage, authenticity, and brilliance. 1. The shattering of external illusions. For decades, INFJs live under invisible weights, expectations whispered by parents, teachers, lovers, colleagues, and society at large, each demanding that they shape themselves to fit a mold that never quite fits. They learn early on to bend, to smile even when it hurts, to suppress their depth and intuition to meet the comfort of others. But around 40, something cracks, like ice breaking on a frozen lake after a long winter. The shattering is not violent in the physical sense, but seismic in the soul. All the old stories, the ones that said they were too sensitive, too quiet, too intense, fall away like dry leaves in an autumn wind, leaving the bare essence of who they truly are exposed to the light. And in that exposure, there is liberation. For the first time, they do not ask permission to exist. They do not seek validation for their depth. They no longer feel compelled to navigate the world as if every step must meet the approval of others. This is freedom at the level of the soul. The INFJ realizes that the world never defined them, they have always carried the definition within themselves. And once they reclaim that inner authority, life itself seems to expand, as if the universe bends in alignment with their truth, finally making room for the person they have always been beneath the expectations and illusions. 2. Emotional sovereignty ignites. The emotional world of an INFJ is a vast, often overwhelming landscape, a place of empathy so deep it can feel like drowning, where every slight and every heartbreak cuts twice as deep because they carry not only their own pain but the pain of those around them. For years, they absorb the energies of the world, quietly suffering in the shadows, questioning why their sensitivity is a burden rather than a gift. But by 40, the INFJ reaches a turning point. Emotional sovereignty ignites within them, like a lighthouse blazing through fog. They learn to feel deeply without being consumed, to connect without losing themselves, and to navigate the unpredictable waters of human interaction with a precision that feels almost surgical. Emotional mastery is no longer a theoretical ideal, it is a lived reality. They recognize that their sensitivity, far from being a weakness, is the key to profound insight, the compass that guides them toward truth and meaning. And in this sovereignty, the INFJ begins to experience a freedom that has been denied to them for decades. The freedom to love, to feel, and to live without fear, the freedom to wield their empathy as power rather than being battered by it. 3. The discipline of energy and focus. For years, INFJs scatter their energy across countless projects, relationships, and obligations, often to the point of exhaustion. They have always been wired to care, to notice, to give more than they receive, and the world has taken advantage of this generosity without giving much in return. By 40, however, they finally understand that their energy is sacred, finite, and their focus is a weapon capable of shaping reality itself. This realization transforms the way they live. No longer do they expend precious emotional and mental energy on people or tasks that do not resonate with their soul. Every decision is deliberate, every action intentional. The distractions of the past, the endless trying to fit in, to please, to anticipate others, fall away. The INFJ becomes a master of their own attention, channeling it into what truly matters: personal growth, purposeful work, and relationships that honor their depth. This discipline is not restrictive, it is liberating. It allows them to move through the world with unstoppable momentum, guided by intuition, insight, and a newfound clarity of purpose that makes every action feel inevitable, powerful, and profoundly satisfying. 4. Vocational ascendance and purpose. The career journey of an INFJ often feels like wandering a labyrinth of invisible doors, paths that promise fulfillment but consistently lead to dead ends or shallow satisfaction. Yet by 40, something remarkable occurs. All the experiences, failures, heartbreaks, and observations converge into a clear vision of vocational purpose. Suddenly, work is no longer about obligation or survival, it becomes an expression of the soul. Every skill they have cultivated, every challenge they have endured, every quiet insight gained through years of reflection aligns into a trajectory that feels preordained, almost fated. This is not simply success, it is alignment. Their professional life begins to mirror their internal truth. The INFJ operates not for external reward or recognition, but for resonance. Work that nourishes their spirit, challenges their intellect, and allows them to create meaning. The joy of this alignment is electric, transformative, and utterly liberating. It feels as though the world finally bends to meet them, acknowledging the truth of their capabilities, intuition, and unique vision, and the INFJ finally steps into the life they were always meant to lead. 5. Radical self-compassion and unyielding authenticity. For decades, INFJs are their own harshest critics, punishing themselves for being too much, too quiet, or too different, while simultaneously carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. But by 40, they discover radical self-compassion, a transformative force that softens the inner critic without diminishing strength. This is the moment when they stop shrinking to fit into spaces that do not honor them and begin to live unapologetically, fully embracing their intensity, sensitivity, and depth. Authenticity becomes their guiding principle. There is a power in this authenticity so profound that it changes the way the world responds to them. People who previously dismissed or misunderstood them are now drawn to the undeniable presence of a person fully inhabiting their truth. And this self-compassion does more than comfort, it fuels courage, resilience, and a refusal to accept anything less than alignment with their deepest values, making the INFJ unstoppable in the pursuit of their life's purpose. 6. Mastery of love and connection. INFJs have long navigated relationships with both hope and trepidation, yearning for connection but often being misunderstood, misaligned, or emotionally drained. By 40, they achieve mastery over love and connection, understanding that intimacy is not something to be grasped desperately but cultivated intentionally. They no longer settle for shallow bonds or compromise their essence for the sake of company. Instead, they form relationships that are soulful, reciprocal, and fiercely honest, where emotional depth is met with understanding, and vulnerability is safe, sacred, and transformative. This mastery transforms every interaction, romantic, familial, and platonic. Connections become chosen alliances rather than accidental encounters, and in these profound relationships, the INFJ experiences a fulfillment that was previously unimaginable, a deep resonance that amplifies joy, trust, and mutual growth, and finally, they are seen, understood, and valued in ways that reflect the true depth of their being. 7. Spiritual and existential sovereignty. INFJs are natural seekers, driven by questions of purpose, morality, and meaning. Decades of contemplation, doubt, and inner exploration prepare them for a spiritual and existential awakening that often occurs around 40. At this point, intuition and insight stop being abstract whispers and become undeniable truths. They recognize that every experience, every heartbreak, every triumph has contributed to a narrative that is theirs alone, and this clarity allows them to navigate life with an almost mystical awareness of purpose. They begin to perceive life as a sacred tapestry, where even the smallest choices ripple outward, shaping destiny in ways both subtle and profound. This awakening is not about religion or doctrine. It is about sovereignty over the soul, a deep and abiding connection to intuition, destiny, and the universe itself, which transforms every day into a living, breathing act of meaning, creativity, and conscious choice. 8. Full emergence as the true INFJ. Finally, at 40, the INFJ emerges fully as themselves, not as a reflection of others' expectations, not as a shadow of fear or insecurity, but as a sovereign, radiant being. They step into life with the quiet confidence of someone who has endured storms, mastered their emotions, cultivated clarity, and embraced their unique gifts. Their presence is undeniable, not because it demands attention, but because it emanates authenticity, depth, and purpose. Every struggle of the past is now sacred fuel, forging resilience, wisdom, and unshakable self-trust. This is the true rebirth. The INFJ begins to live deliberately, boldly, and fully, embracing a life that is no longer deferred, compromised, or filtered, but lived with brilliance, courage, and profound fulfillment. It is the life they were always meant to lead, and it is breathtaking in its power, authenticity, and transformative intensity. So if you are an INFJ approaching 40, do not fear it, do not doubt it, and do not settle for a life of compromise, invisibility, or half measures, because the true life, the life of depth, power, purpose, and authenticity, is waiting for you, forged by every challenge, heartbreak, and quiet moment you thought was wasted. Step fully into your awakening. Claim your sovereignty. Live with courage, clarity, and the brilliance that has been waiting for decades to emerge. Your life, finally, begins now.